It's my deepest pleasure to present an worldwide first-class international figure, Dr. Joyce Harper. Dr. Harper, she's very eminent as being an author, academic, scientist, and educator. She's professor of reproductive science at University College in London. She's head of reproductive science and social group. She's Embryology and PGD Academy, which deliver an online certificate in clinical embryology, and founder of Global Women Connected. She works in field of fertility, genetics, reproductive science since 1987, written over 200 scientific papers and published books. She started her career as an embryologist, moved into reproductive science and genetics. Now she's researching into fertility education, social aspect of fertility and infertility. She's passionate educator at all levels, and we all witness sincere efforts by Dr. Joyce Harper in every conference and in every workshop, actually. And she is including keynote and plenary lectures. She regularly appears on TV, radio, and in press. Dr. Harper, please.
Hello, my name is Joyce Harper, and I'm Professor of Reproductive Science at the Institute for Women's Health at University College London. I've worked on many different parts of fertility and genetics over the last 30-odd years, but I've now in recent years been working on the need to deliver fertility education. So I want to talk to you today about why do we need to teach fertility education. To start my disclosure, I'm partner in a company called the Embryology and PGD Academy, and we deliver hands-on workshops on various aspects of embryology. And we have an 8-module online distance learning certificate in clinical embryology for embryologists to learn the theory of what they're doing. And this is delivered by world-class experts in fertility. I'm also CEO and founder of a company called Global Women Connected, where we educate women about their health. I'm author of a book called Your Fertile Years, which I wrote for the public to understand what they need to know to make informed choices about their reproductive years. And I've worked or delivered talks for these companies over the last few years. So fertility education, I very much look on this as a prevention rather than just treatment. In the past, we have treated the cause of fertility, of infertility. So we've delivered IVF, for example, but we've not tried to prevent. And I think, me and many people think that with fertility education, we can hopefully prevent some people from coming in our fertility clinics because they've understood how to get pregnant naturally at the right time in their life, rather than wait till it's too late or get infertility and then come to the clinic. So with any disease, we should be working on prevention and not just the cure. And we haven't done that in IVF at all. So this is why us international group that are working on fertility education think this is very, very important. So I'm going to talk to you today about why do we need fertility education? How do people learn? What do they need to know? Why we have set up the international initiative and the future. So if we look at the global data on the mean age of women at the birth of their first child, we can see that this has increased quite exceptionally in almost every country. So the black diamonds are the age in 1970, the white diamonds are the age in 1995, and the blue bars are the age in 2017. And you can see, besides a few outliers at the beginning, that in almost every country, this age has been going up and is now over 30 in a number of countries and rapidly approaching age 32. Now, I'm sure I don't need to tell this audience about the risk of female fertility decline. So obviously you can see that if people are leaving it that late to have their first child, then chances are they're going to have a reduced family size, and there are going to be some people who don't even get to have their first child because they've left it too late. And we can really see that in this graph here. So this is the total fertility rates, which are decreasing globally. So we can see in every country, the total fertility rate has gone down. And the overall total fertility rate in the 1950s was 5, and now it is 2.5. And the fertility rate is the average number of children a woman would have in each country. When I was young, the total fertility rate in the UK was 2.4. So on average, women had 2.4 children. Now in the EU overall, it's 1.6. In the UK, it's 1.8. And since I've made this slide, I've just been to a conference in France and I checked the fertility rate there, and it's actually now 1.88. So it's going down very rapidly, and we can see in some countries it's as low as 1.3. So this means that women are having closer to 1 child per woman rather than 2, which is probably what most people want. And certainly from the studies I've done, most people want 2 children. So what we are seeing is people not having the desired family size, and 20% of women in the UK are childless. Now, some of these will be by choice for sure, but I think that probably not even half of those are by choice. They're because they have missed the boat. So let's look at how people learn. So obviously people learn a lot from school, from talking to their peers, they're talking as adults. There's also some great TV programs that people watch. There's a great program at the moment on Netflix called Sex Education, which teaches people a lot about reproduction. People use a lot of social media now. I've just made my first TikTok video because a lot of young people are on TikTok. And there's a number of programs that are documentaries or on the news or on the radio or books or even professional documents from professional societies such as the Nuffield Council on Bioethics. So there's a number of ways that people can get information. And of course, the most common is to go to Dr. Google. We Google everything. Unfortunately, out there on Google, etc., is some misleading information about fertility. There's a number of reports that there's a baby panic. Why are the risks not being told as they are? They're saying that we're over-exaggerating. The idea that a woman's fertility plummets at age 35 comes from bad science. Growing number of celebrities that we see have children in their 40s, which gives women the impression that that's what they can do. And this is Professor Jean Twenge, who is an American professor who believes very strongly that we are over-exaggerating female fertility decline. And this is a screenshot from one of her videos. She says, the difference in fertility between a woman in her late 20s and her late 30s is a few percentage points. And I think those of us in the field will know that that is not correct. So what do women need to know? I think women need to understand their reproductive system from the menstrual cycle to the menopause. So they need to understand their fertility and their menstrual cycle and their fertile window. They need to understand infertility, female fertility decline, and the limits of fertility treatment. And they also need to understand the menopause. So I've been doing some work on the menstrual cycle. I think that it's important to understand the 2 key events of the menstrual cycle are period and ovulation. And textbook-wise, we had always been taught that a woman's cycle is 28 days and she ovulates on day 14. So then surely if she's trying to get pregnant, then she should just have intercourse on day 14 and she'll hit her fertile window and she'll get pregnant. Well, I always knew that this probably wasn't the case. Women are very individual and varied, and we don't fit textbooks explanations. So I went to a company called Natural Cycles a few years ago. Natural Cycles make a fertility app. Oh, it's actually a contraceptive app that measures basal body temperature. So it can tell when a woman is ovulating, and they input this information into the app. And I knew they had millions of cycles of menstrual cycle data. And I wanted to look at the characteristics of these menstrual cycles. So we looked at over 600,000 cycles where we had the basal body temperature measurements, or in some cases also the luteinizing hormone measurement from an ovulation stick. And we found that 65% of cycles were 25 to 30 days, but only 13% were a textbook 28 days. And ovulation was nearer day 17 than day 14. And there have been a number of other studies since we've published this paper that have confirmed this data. So this is a study that's in press at the moment. These are the proofs here. That's why we've got all these numbers here. Sorry, this is our recent paper, hot off the press, looking at period tracker apps. What menstrual cycle information are they giving women? So we looked at 10 menstrual cycle apps or period trackers. They track the cycle and predict the next cycles. But unfortunately, most also predict ovulation and the fertile window, even though they are not measuring a marker of ovulation. None of the apps we looked at were measuring that. They were just looking at cycle dates. And our previous study I showed you told us that looking just at cycle dates was very, very inaccurate to predict the day of ovulation. So we did this in collaboration with Clearblue, and we designed 5 women from Clearblue's database, a woman with a constant 28-day cycle, one that was averaged on 23 days, one that was an average of 28 days but varied, one that averaged 33 days, and a very irregular cycle. Our prediction would be that ovulation was around day 16 and 17 of these cycles, but obviously it depended on the length of the cycle. So we had these black lines here are the date that we predicted ovulation would happen in these cycles. So what we can see is that these are the dates that the app actually predicted the day of ovulation. There was one app that I was very pleased didn't predict the day of ovulation, and I strongly don't think they should if they're not measuring a marker of ovulation. But you'll see here that in almost all cases, except for the very irregular cycle, the app said the woman was ovulating earlier than she actually did. One app actually always gave ovulation on day 13, always, which is obviously way off. So whether you are using these apps for contraception or for fertility to plan a pregnancy, this could cause real problems because you could miss the fertile window. So the other problem with these apps is that if you're using it as a form of contraception, then you could think you've ovulated on day 13, have unprotected sex, and you actually don't ovulate till day 17, and so you could get pregnant. So I think these apps that just look at dates do have some benefit to women. They help them understand roughly when their period would come, and it would give them some help to their menstrual cycle to know when that was happening. But I think very interestingly that they have a record of a woman's menstrual cycle, so a historic record. And this can be very useful to see if there's changes in the menstrual cycle, in the length of the cycle, how long the period is, and if there are any problems the woman experiences. To have this historical data can be really useful. And if she's starting to go through the menopause and her cycle length varies, again, the app should be able to pick up this information. So one last thing to say is that we have just finished a survey asking women how they felt about using a period tracker, and we're just preparing that data for publication now. So it's really important for women to understand their fertile window, which is 5 days before ovulation and the day of ovulation. And as I said, looking at just calendar is very inaccurate. Looking at any of the markers of ovulation, such as basal body temperature, cervical mucus, or LH, are accurate. And we did a study looking at the various apps that were classed under fertility apps and were marketed as fertility apps. And we found that most of them actually just looked at the calendar, which was really, really worrying, especially if they're trying to say they help women get pregnant. So this is a paper that's just ahead of print at the moment, but will be out any day. With natural cycles, we looked at time to pregnancy for women using a fertility awareness-based mobile app to plan a pregnancy. And so they were using the app on Plan a Pregnancy, and we looked at over 5,000 women aged 18 to 45. And this Kaplan-Meier probability of pregnancy per cycle shows us that for the optimal cohort of women who are under 35, had a cycle length variation of less than 5 days, and that logged intercourse on at least 20% of cycle days, were 95% of them were pregnant within 12 cycles. And on average, they were mainly pregnant within 2 cycles. And this shows you some of the selected exposures that had an effect on this. So if they measured their temperature frequency more often, they had a better chance of getting pregnant. If they had intercourse more frequently, BMI, we've shown in a previous study, maybe because we've got mainly patients with a very normal BMI, was not hugely effective. And obviously those women who are younger had a better chance. And I think everyone in this audience will know this, but this is important information that we have to tell the public about the quantity and quality of eggs declining, and that women are born with all the eggs they're going to have, and that they have about 1 to 2 million at birth. And by puberty, they're down to about 400,000. And something that women don't understand is that they will only ovulate 1 egg a month, but up to 1,000 eggs die every month. So by the time they get to the menopause, women have about 450 to 500 menstrual cycles. So they'll ovulate about 450 to 500 eggs, but then those rest of those eggs will die. You can do the maths from this. You can work out if they had 400,000 at puberty, ovulate around 450 times, then obviously somewhere between 750 and 1,000 eggs have to die each month. By age 37, the majority have gone. This is not a linear loss of eggs, and by the menopause, all the viable eggs have gone. We've also got the quality of the eggs. Eggs have chromosomes in a very fragile state. So as a woman ages, we increase the risk of miscarriage, increase the risk of having a chromosomally abnormal child, and we decrease the risk of conception. So I'm sure everyone here is aware of this graph showing around the age of 35, the increased risk of spontaneous miscarriage, which is mainly due to chromosome abnormalities, and the decrease in fertility due to the quantity and quality of the eggs decreasing. So some people think assisted reproductive technology will answer their problems. There's certainly a misconception that this happens. I'm sure you're all aware of Louise Brown, who was born in 1978, and this is myself and Louise on her birthday year a few years ago when she was 40. So the Obama matrix is a study that's been done by people who've been looking at fertility data for many, many years, and they used a computer simulation of a huge number of women to see what age they needed to start having children if they wanted 1, 2, or 3 children. And they predicted that if they wanted a 90% guarantee that they'd have this number of children, they needed to start at either 32, 27, or 23 years, depending if they were trying naturally. And with IVF, we can push that a little bit further, but not hugely. So it's a quite depressing read for women to look at that, for sure. Again, I'm sure you all know it's all about the egg, but this is important information. I always refer patients to the HFEA website to have a look at the data, and we can see that the HFEA group, the birth rates per embryo transferred Under 35s are together, just over 30% in the UK, but then they've grouped it in 2-year batches because as we go down, we see the live birth rate rapidly decrease, and the chance of having a baby over 43 and above is just a few percent points. But if we use a donor egg from a donor who's under 35, the chance of getting pregnant is almost unaffected by age. But the womb does stay relatively fertile. It's the egg that's the problem. And there's many reports in the media about older women using a donor egg to have their baby. They can carry the baby themselves, but they use a young donor egg. So we now have egg freezing by vitrification. I always suggest that this is plan B, not plan A. With our fertility education, we would prefer not to see patients in the fertility clinic and not to be freezing their eggs. But obviously for some women, they haven't met the right partner or they're not in the right situation to start having a family. So cryopreservation is certainly an option. It's great that in 2021 it is an option. But I do feel concerned that there's this press to get students almost as soon as they've graduated off to the fertility clinic to get their eggs frozen. So the whole commercialization of egg freezing has really been of concern to me. And in the UK, we have up until hopefully this year where things are going to change. At the moment, we have a 10-year limit on how long women can freeze their eggs. So if they freeze their eggs when they're 28, they have to at the moment use them when they're 38. But we're hoping that the government now are going to finally change this law. They have said they are going to, but we have to wait for the paperwork to be done. But egg freezing is expensive. You need multiple rounds. There's no guarantee that the woman would have a baby at the end. And there are strict regulations in most countries. And even in some EU countries, this is banned unless it's for a medical reason. So I think the menopause is great news. I think, unfortunately, women have not been taught about the menopause. So they are going into this blindly, not understanding anything about it. Some of them have symptoms for many years and then realize that that was a menopause symptoms. So I think overall it's great news. I'm sorry, I'm just going to sneeze. No, it's gone. But I'm doing work now on delivering menopause education. We've just done a very large survey of over 3,000 women to ask them their knowledge and attitudes to the menopause. And they clearly said they want to be educated and they want their doctors to be educated about the menopause. Many doctors were reported as not knowing the symptoms, turning women away in their 40s, saying they're too young to have menopause symptoms because you don't have the menopause until you're 51, because doctors and women don't understand that these symptoms can affect many women 10 years before they actually have their periods stop. So I think if we educate women, we can celebrate the menopause. No more menstrual cycle, no more periods, no more premenstrual syndrome, no more mood swings, and no more contraception. So I have done a number of podcasts and TV programs trying to help women understand the menopause and have a positive view to it. So in 2016, Adam Balan, Jackie Bovin and myself set up the UK Fertility Education Initiative, and we've published a paper outlining what we're trying to do, which is to improve fertility awareness. We have some animations on YouTube that we've made, which we haven't checked yet with young people to see what they think about them, but that's work I'm hopefully doing over the next year. I've done some great work with the Fertility Fest team, Jessica Hepburn and Gabby Porter, who work with artists and professionals to see how we can educate people about their fertility. And we are very pleased that with some campaigning, the word fertility finally appeared in the UK curriculum. The Department for Education said that we need to teach people about the facts about reproductive health, including fertility, and the potential impact of lifestyle on fertility for men and women and menopause. So as well as working on the UK initiative, I wanted to gather the international community together because there are some people who have done absolutely amazing work on this. There's particularly great work coming from Denmark, from France, from Portugal, and from Belgium. So I got together a few years ago an international fertility education initiative. I'm hoping very soon we'll be able to announce a major collaboration with one of the most important societies in our field. We've just had a paper out outlining the research and action that we're going to do. And we have representatives from these countries. And our mission is to improve fertility and reproductive health awareness through education. We have two research themes. We want to look at fertility, knowledge and attitudes to fertility, and we want to develop and validate educational tools for everybody. So from teenagers through to people who haven't had children yet in their later years. So we've got a lot of work to do. The first thing we did in 2019 was develop a fertility education poster. It's available from the Fertility Europe website or from Global Women Connected in a large number of translations. And we did this in collaboration with Clearblue, and we're very happy that we have this really lovely poster that people can use. And we launched this with Fertility Europe at the EU Parliament back in November 2019. So I just wanted to show you some of the studies I've been doing in this area. We've done surveys of teenagers, men and women, and also childless people in the UK. And we are just analysing some data now where we've asked young people and men and women in Greece how they feel about fertility, their attitudes to fertility, and their knowledge. So this is some of the preliminary data from the UK Women's Survey. The average age they wanted children was age 30, and we actually found the same in Greece. And they said that the main things that they are thinking about that's postponing this having children is they want stability, which is financial and career stability. They are concerned about age, but they don't want to be too young or too old, and also about lifestyle. So they want to do some things, accomplish some things before they have children. And this is a word cloud of some of the words that they came up with. We asked them why they picked their particular age to having children and what factors were affecting that decision. And the top answers were they were developing their career, they were not financially ready, but this answer here is they are ready to have children now, but some of them didn't have a partner. So they are ready now, but they don't have a partner. These are our childless studies. One of this study has been published, the study where we asked childless women. These were women who had wanted children, but were now over the age of 45 and had not had children. And we also have the study on men. So the yellow is the men and the dark blue is the women. So we asked them whether they'd actually even tried to have children, and most of them had, but some of them had not even tried because they either didn't have a partner or their partner wasn't willing. We asked them what factors were affecting having children, and for men and women, the biggest problem was not having a partner. And we asked them about IVF. Most of the women had tried IVF, but less of the men, and then why they stopped IVF. And the biggest reason for both sexes were emotional, followed by deciding that they were too old. So those papers are in preparation now. So as well as asking people their attitudes and knowledge, we also, as I said, the second aim of the international initiative is to make fertility education tools. So if you haven't seen it yet, please visit the Australian website. The Australian group led by Karen Hammerberg have had sponsorship from the government for many years, and they have this fabulous interactive website called yourfertility.au, which really makes it clear to people that are having a baby what they need to think about. So it talks about preconception health, talks about the fertile window, optimizing getting pregnant, etc. It's absolutely wonderful. In the UK, we have a very basic website at the moment, and then we've got Fertility Europe and another number of websites. But for most of these are places where people will unfortunately only visit when they're having problems. We want to really try and encourage them to visit this when they're younger, before, so that they can plan this properly. So for younger people, we have the poster, which I've also made into an animation in English. Then we've got these animations, and various other countries have also made animations. But we need to work with young people to see whether this is an effective way of delivering this information, because I feel it might not be. I think they might be a bit simplistic. So I have started to go on TikTok. It's a new experience for me, but I think we've got a lot of work to do to tailor the fertility education to our particular age group and gender that we're dealing with. So I think how we deliver fertility education to an 18-year-old boy is not the same how we deliver it to a 40-year-old woman who wants to have children. So I wanted to just mention the Denmark system. They have a fabulous clinic where it's basically a family planning clinic where people who don't want children yet, but may want them in the future, can go and have some conversations and some various checks. So they are looking to determine what are the most important parameters that will predict future fertility. So they've given them a color coding so that the red are really high risk things, orange and yellow are lower risk, medium risk, and green is a low risk. So obviously age, once you get over 35, it's important, over 40 even more so, etc. So they're still really trying to work out, they're moving these things around as they gather more data. So here's two of their papers talking about their clinic, which I think is fabulous, and I think we need in every country. So my take-home messages from this talk is I want us to prevent infertility. I want us to improve preconception health so that people can make informed choices. I think fertility education is essential, and people need to assess knowledge and attitudes, and we need to develop the tools tailored to different ages, and it needs to be reliable information. And we don't want people to say, OMG, I forgot to have children. So here's my contacts. I'm at Prof. Joyce Harper on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And I have a website with a lot of my information, and I'm also got a YouTube channel, etc. So I hope that you found that interesting, and I hope you understand why we need to develop this. And I hope to work with those of you who would like to develop this in your country. Thank you very much.